All right, so the next thing we'll look at, and that will be our last thing we'll touch on, has to do with things to consider when interacting with locals. How does one integrate appropriately? That's the
Ghanaian society.
That's a piece that we'll touch on. How interaction with locals and all of that. And all of this that we're dealing with, of course, has to do with more of pre-move. And when you move, these are some of the things that you encounter. Now, one of the first things that I'd like to touch on has to do with community. Okay, community. Now, Ghana, again, is more of a societal type of lifestyle. Kind of, we live in, like everybody's family member, kind of, for the most part. So that's something that if you're coming into Ghana to live in Ghana, you want to start thinking about what communities can I be part of coming from the diaspora, because one of the things that makes a lot of people frustrated is because they feel like they're alone.
Or isolated.
Okay, they feel isolated. So that's the first thing you want to check. That what are the communities that are available for me to be part of? That I can have people who are like-minded. When you're coming from America, there are communities like African American Association that you can be a part of. So you have to begin to make the search and figure out which community can I be part of, so I don't feel alone, I don't feel left out. And when you do that, what that is going to do for you firsthand is going to help you to be able to understand some of the things that they have learned in being there. Okay, and it ties back into some of the things that are appropriate to do, some of the things that Ghanaians don't actually like. You get to learn these things from the community that you've now become a part of. So don't move to Ghana and be in a silo. No, look for communities that you can actually be a part of. Now, the second thing that we'll touch on that can help you integrate with locals, before I deal with some sentiments that a lot of people have, has to do with, the local language. Maybe some people take it for granted. Some people debate about it. But you see, when you approach a market woman, in the streets, and you're able to tell them at a sign, something very basic, put in effort to be able to learn that and say at a sign, that puts a certain type of joy that makes them welcome you differently. Mm-hmm. That's the reality. So I tell people, if you want to go into Ghana, and that's one of the first things my wife did, is to take a tree class. Until today, she's still taking 3 classes. At least it'll be better. So it depends on your interest. But at least the widely spoken local language, learn a few things. It doesn't hurt. One of the things we do on our trips, we run trips to Ghana as well. One of the things we do is we have a teacher that has pre-done some basic tree lessons that we give our people for negotiations and all of that. So you want to be able to have some basics, especially for you who want to move and live. Don't learn everything in the tree language to be an expert. No, I know how to say bonjour. I don't have to learn everything in French. When I meet somebody in Miami, they speak a lot of Spanish. So what I did was I learned a few Spanish. My wife got me an app for Spanish. She can do a little Spanish. So I began to learn few words in Spanish. That when I meet the people in Miami who speak Spanish, I just say one word. And when I say one word, they get excited and they welcome me differently. Although I'm not Spanish, they know I'm not Spanish. So that is very key if you want to be able to integrate into Ghana society very well and easy. You want to be able to learn a few things. It doesn't matter the group in which you find yourself. If you find yourself amongst elites who speak only English, that's also fine. But once you're living in Ghana, you find yourself in certain places. It doesn't hurt to have a few local language lessons. You want to say a word in Tree that you remember. Say something in Tree that you've learned.
It's the same.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Say another one. I'm challenging you. Say another one. Come on. Give me another one. Mache. You know what mache means? It means good afternoon. Good afternoon. No, it means good morning. Sorry. Maha means good afternoon. It means good morning. So few things that you can pick up here and there. You can even buy books. You don't have to get a teacher. Buy a few cheap books that teaches you. Good morning is mache. Just to have that feel. When you meet somebody, even you, it brings excitement to you. When you meet somebody somewhere, you're able to just say one word. If you go to the market, anywhere, it's beautiful. It helps you integrate, easily and nicely. So that's something you want to look at. And also basic cultural knowledge. Some people get up, they said, I want to move to Ghana. And they have never taken the time to do any research to find out anything about Ghanaian culture. And how it has evolved with time.
And the do's and don'ts of Ghanaian culture. Exactly. There are a lot of do's and don'ts that you wouldn't know from the internet. So,
like for example, in Ghana, we don't joke with our left hand. Our left hand is very something else. You don't greet people with left hand. You don't use left hand. wave people and all of that. It's like a taboo. So these are very few cultural knowledges that you can actually learn. You don't have to learn everything about the culture. Learn few things about the culture, basics. It starts from there. The more you live there, then you can begin to pick up a lot more. It doesn't make you frustrated easily, because there'll be a lot more harmony between you and the people that live there, because you've picked up a few things that you're practicing. You know the culture. You know that when you get to a place, you don't have to greet from the left. You have to greet from the right. That type of thing. When you're sitting in your house and somebody comes to your place, you know that, you have to welcome them. You have to give them water. So these are basic things that you learn. It helps with you being able to integrate properly. There are a lot more things that you need to know. But what we are saying is, it's a key piece to be able to integrate. Find out some of the cultural things that you can learn about Ghana, about Senegal, Gambia, wherever it is that you're going. And it will do you a lot of good to integrate. Now, I'll touch on some few sentiments living as a Ghanaian and having interactions with people that are coming from the outside. I've also got to experience it in being someone coming from the outside, from America to Ghana. And I've experienced it being in Ghana and other people coming to me. Now, one of the first things has to do with the preconceived notions that people in Ghana have. And I've been a part in that, where once we are in Ghana, of course, we've never been anywhere, we've never traveled. We have a lot of preconceived notions about somebody who's coming. We automatically think you're coming to prove tough. You're coming to prove that. You're coming to prove that. So we're already on guard. So that is something that a lot of people must be aware of, that most people you'll be encountering have preconceived notions. So you either prove them right or prove them wrong. But when you are aware of that, it helps you to be very careful how you relate to people until they get to know you. Once they get to know you and your personality, everything is relaxed and moving. But at a go, they always have in mind that you will try to feel superior. You try to act superior. So they are very much on guard. The least thing, they take you on. So you have to be vigilant and know that this is how the people think. You can't blame them for that. It's based on experience. When I was growing up, I had some family members who may have traveled and came back. And when they came back, sometimes they behave differently. So with those notions, I think everybody who comes back from outside behave like that. And we apply those rules to them. So you have to know how to navigate. So when I go back to Ghana, I know how to deal with my people. I don't act like I'm different, and that's some of the few tricks that you can actually learn when it comes to that, because Ghanaians are very sensitive. Now, the second piece that I want to talk about has to do with, Ghanaians having a different type of lifestyle, a laid-back lifestyle. So when you come and you're trying to compare how they're doing their things to how things to be done wherever you're coming from, that becomes very offensive to most Ghanaians. And in fact, when I was living in Ghana and growing up in Ghana, it was very offensive when I have people coming from the outside. And they try to tell me that the way I'm doing things are just crazy and this is how it's supposed to be done. You have to figure out how you can adapt, because I'm telling you are coming in to the majority. You want to figure out how you can live peacefully. So you don't think nobody understands me. Nobody kind of agrees with me. So you get frustrated and you leave. Meanwhile, there are so many beautiful people out there you can actually connect with, if only they can get to know you. But you're failing to learn how to adapt, because you want to compare everything they do to everything you've ever learned your entire life in America or in the UK. That is a disaster. Or in Germany, that's a disaster. You don't want that. So Ghanaians don't like that. And being a Ghanaian and living in Ghana, having people come to me, I know we don't like that. So don't even try that. Don't even try that. The second piece has to do with pride. Pride. I think you touched on that. Talk a little bit about that. Pride. People coming out and feeling so entitled, like you have to be saved. That type of attitude.
I think it's about coming with a humble attitude. Yep. About coming and saying, like, these are things, especially when it relates to when we talk about African American history and the transatlantic slave trade. Like, all of those different things have happened to us as Black people. But when we're coming back, we have to understand that we can't just go in with an entitlist attitude. And we also have to come back and understand that there are a lot of people living in Ghana who may not have heard or may not have learned about the slave trade and know the history just the way that we know it. And while that is an issue that we have to dig deeper into, it's still something that is still a fact. And so when we come and, we feel that, they should get it, it's an opportunity for us to sit down, have dialogue, and understand each other. When I went to Ghana the first time, and I spent a long time working and living in Ghana, I had a lot of conversations with my coworkers about police brutality in America. And a lot of times they were shocked to know that these were not one-off things that were happening, or that police brutality was this huge and this big. And so we had these interesting and deep discussions, but it was that coming together of us deciding that we're going to come together and learn from each other that allowed for us to have a great relationship while I was there. And they were the best of friends, teaching me the language, all of that. But it's because of how I approached it.
And let me give you one last thing that Ghanaians really dislike and they hate. Whenever you try to act like you deserve a preferential treatment, the I know my rights attitude, it will go against you hugely and make your life very uncomfortable in Ghana. If you want to always prove a point that, I know my rights, you have to treat me in a certain type of way. I'm telling you, Ghanaians don't like that, especially if you find yourself in spaces where you're not in charge, for the most part, and you want to act like, because you're coming from the UK, or you're coming from America, you have to get a certain preferential treatment. When Ghanaians have any sense of that, that's a big problem for you. It doesn't help you to be able to integrate, especially when it comes to the business space. It affects you a lot when you try to act in a way that suggests that you think they should treat you specially because, of course, you're coming from the UK, coming from Germany or wherever. Ghanaians just like that. So if you want to be able to integrate,
money or whatever,
exactly,
whatever it may be.
If you want to integrate properly, that's something that you don't have to do. It's a no-no.